Welcome and bless you for attending this virtual Thanksgiving service together. Let me share with you our passage for today. It's from the Gospel of Luke in the 17th chapter, verses 11 through 19. As Jesus made his way to Jerusalem, he went along the border between Samaria and Galilee. He was going into a village when he was met by 10 men suffering from a dreaded skin disease. They stood at a distance and shouted, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." Jesus saw them and said to them, "Go and let the priests examine you." On the way they were made clean. When one of them saw that he was healed, he came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself to the ground at Jesus' feet and thanked him. The man was a Samaritan. Jesus spoke up. "There were 10 who were healed. Where are the other 9? Why is this foreigner the only one who came back to give thanks to God?" And Jesus said to him, "Get up and go your way. Your faith has made you well." This is the word of the Lord then, and thanks be to God. Well, hello, this is our Thanksgiving message for the year of our Lord. November 22nd is the Sunday closest to Thanksgiving, 2020. What an unusual year it has been, and I'm coming to you in this virtual worship, and I'm glad you're worshiping virtually today. And I want to give us some things to be thankful for today. Naturally, since it's my Thanksgiving message, I wanted for it to include a turkey. That's the way that I think anyway. And not just a turkey from the grocery store. That would have been too easy. I could have just gone and got one from the frozen bird aisle, but I wanted a live turkey. Now, I'm a pastor of a rural congregation. I didn't think that would be undoable. In fact, out here on the field of dreams, we call it, on the softball diamond, I have seen flocks of wild turkeys. Do they call them flocks? I think that's what they call them, many times. So I began by calling a church member, Kathy Berry, who has helped me in the past to get live bunnies for my dramatic Easter children's messages. Kathy's affiliated with the 4-H clubs, and I knew that Kathy might be the place to start since she has helped in the past, but Kathy didn't know any turkeys. So my next logical step to try and find a turkey to do my message with me for today was to Google it. I searched on the internet, and I searched for turkey farms near me. Turkey farms near me. There were several, and I reached out to several. Some didn't respond to my request. "Hello, I'm a minister. I'm looking for a turkey to do my sermon with me for Thanksgiving." They might have thought that was unusual. And the ones that did respond made me aware that this is a difficult year to be a turkey farmer because of the pandemic. Many people have canceled their celebrations altogether, as we've been advised to, or else they've pared them down quite a bit. My advice is buy the big bird anyway. Support the farmers. Turkey's good for you. High protein, low calories, and leftovers are just as good as they are in the beginning. At any rate, my request for a turkey farm didn't work out either. And I didn't give up. That's just not in my nature. And I remembered, I've got a friend at the Soulard Market in St. Louis. For years, when I was actively doing the Ukrainian Easter eggs, I would go to Scott Har's family farm booth at the Soulard Market because he sold farm fresh eggs, and not just hen eggs, but also goose eggs and duck eggs, so I could have the unusual sizes that I like to draw on with the Easter egg art. Well, I remember that Scott Hart also used to lend me bunnies in the olden days before I was pastor at a rural church. And also he had all sorts of other livestock. In fact, he has a meat case that he also sells fresh, farm-raised, free-range kind of animals from. So I called Scott Hart. Actually, I got a hold of his brother Brian. And I went to the market. And that's where I found my turkey. First, let me share that experience with you, and I'll tell you why I was so adamant about having a turkey live to share this message with today. And so my video production assistant, my wife Lynn, and I went to the market downtown in St. Louis on a recent rainy Saturday morning. During the spring and the summer, the market is shoulder to shoulder people, and it's bustling, and it's full of wonderful aromas and sounds. Sometimes there are street performers there, often there are. And all of the fresh produce, of course, from farm to table kind of marketers. This time of year, because the market's open year round, it was less crowded because of the pandemic, and also because I mentioned already it was a rainy day. It was comfortably empty, so to speak, and everyone was masked or else we would have turned around and gone away. We went into the main hall there, and then after that, you turn to the left, and that's where is located my friend, Mr. Har. So I'm talking to Brian Har, and Scott is your older brother.
Yes, sir.
I've known Scott for a long time. He used to let me borrow bunnies for my sermons. Yeah.
Yep.
And I came down to visit you today because you said you had some. These are not wild turkeys.
They're domestic, but they are heritage breed turkeys, so they've got that wild streak in them.
Who are the folks that buy live turkeys at Soulard Market?
Oh, anybody that's old-fashioned and wants to do it themselves.
Is that right?
So this cage was full today.
Is that right?
And yeah.
How much for a live turkey?
$50.
$50.
Yep.
So people aren't buying them to keep them like a pet and breed; they're buying them to pluck them.
Oh yeah, some people buy them, and it's their tradition that they'll just set it free on Thanksgiving Day.
Set it free.
Yep. Let it go.
Okay, and now you say they're a little too aggressive to let them out of the cage.
Unfortunately, they will take off. Yeah. Yep, they know exactly what time of year it is.
They know what time of year it is. and you raise a lot of other livestock too.
Yeah.
I've seen goats before.
Goats, lambs, goose and duck and chicken and turkey and rabbits, all kinds of stuff.
Well, I want to see how close can I get down here to them.
I can get one out if you want.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can get one out.
Do they have names?
No, I didn't give these guys names. Once I do that, then I won't sell it.
Can we call them Donald and Joe?
Okay, Joe and Donald. Let's get out, Joe. Come here, Joe. Hold on. Come on. Okay.
Wild turkeys fly a little bit. Do these fly?
Oh yeah, these can fly.
Yeah? Let's see, can I get a close up?
All right.
Is he beautiful?
There we go.
Now, I'm not making too much noise. The reason I called you, I read a story about a naturalist named Joe Hudo who lived with turkeys for a whole year.
Yeah?
He hatched them and convinced them that he was their mother.
No kidding.
And he learned 30 different sounds that they make. They make a purr, like a purr. This one down here, I hear it making.
There you go. Yep.
A whistle.
He's calling it back out to his friend here.
Sounds like the sound that he said they make when they're saying, "Where are you? You got too far away." The story which I alluded to when I was talking to Brian Har at Soulard Market is the reason that I was so adamant about wanting to chase down a turkey for this message. Joe Hudo was raised around animals. He loved animals. In fact, he said that when he was a boy, his parents just gave in and they tiled his room. And they told him he could keep whatever animals he wanted to so long as they stayed in there or else they were outside. He said at one point as a boy, he had a boa constrictor, a baby bobcat, and a squirrel living with him in his room, sleeping with him in his bed, not in cages. And so he came naturally by wanting to be one with the animals. The PBS documentary about his life that was produced was called My Life as a Turkey. What happened was Joe Hudo was given a nest of 10 turkey eggs which had been abandoned. A friend of his who worked at a quail reserve found them abandoned. And Hudo decided to incubate them. And when they hatched, he decided to imprint with the poults when they hatched out. That means that the first thing that they saw and felt nurturing them, they considered him their mother. And so he actually embedded with them for a year and learned all their habits, became fascinated with the complexity of the turkey life, so to speak. And he learned to talk turkey. Hudo came to believe that there were 30 different vocalizations that the turkey had, and he could tell exactly what they meant, like they were talking in their own language. The reason for all of this is it comes to bear on the gospel lesson for today. It truly does. I think that an important lesson for us this pandemic Thanksgiving is that God has become one with us. Just like Hudo embedded with the turkeys, In the first chapter of John's Gospel, it says that God has embedded with humankind. I like the way it puts it in the Message Bible. Eugene Peterson translates that Jesus moved into the neighborhood when he speaks about the incarnation of Christ. But there's much more to it than that in the Gospel. In Luke's Gospel, in the 24th chapter, the disciples, after the crucifixion of Christ, are walking alone and dejected on the road to Emmaus, and Jesus appears with them. They don't recognize him. But later on in the breaking of the bread, it says their hearts had burned within them and they recognized Christ. Thank God this Thanksgiving for those heartwarming moments of nearness to Christ that we can experience that remind us that Christ is one with us and has become one with us. There's even more to it. In John's Gospel in the 6th chapter, there's a storm and the disciples are on the sea and they're afraid for their lives. Jesus comes walking to them on the water. Be not afraid are the first words of Christ when he calms the storm. Isn't that a lesson for our times? We need to hear Christ speaking that same word of peace to us. Be not afraid in these times. God is one with us. Just like Christ became one with those 10 diseased men on the road that we read about in our lesson for today. He reminded them that in their dejection, in their rejection from society, in their disease, in their ill health, in their despair, he came to them and indiscriminately and unconditionally, he offered them love, acceptance, and healing, real physical healing. That's another message that we need to remember for our current days. Now I want to think just a bit about the original Thanksgiving. You know, our tradition is full of a lot of lore about how the Pilgrims celebrated a unity with the Native Americans. We know that there's a little bit of a bunk to that, and the way that the indigenous people were treated was unjust. It's likely that there was no turkey on the table for all of my talk about turkey today. Maybe there was seafood. There were maybe geese and duck. But the fact of the matter is, what they celebrated at that first Thanksgiving was mere survival. They had made it through the first difficult winter. First of all, regarding turkeys, by the way, do you know the lore is that Benjamin Franklin thought the turkey should have been the national bird instead of the eagle. It's true that Benjamin Franklin didn't think much of the eagle, but he didn't actually advocate for the turkey to be the national bird. Here's what Franklin said about eagles, though. He said, "For my own part, I wish the bald eagle had not been chosen the representative of our country. He is a bird of bad moral character. He does not get his living honestly. You may have seen him perched on some dead tree near the river, where, too lazy to fish for himself, he watches the labor of a fishing hawk. And when that diligent bird has at its length taken a fish and is bearing it to his nest for the support of his mate and young ones, the bald eagle pursues him and takes it from him. With all this injustice, he is never in good case, but like those among men who, living by sharping and robbing, he is generally poor and often very lousy. For the truth, the turkey," Franklin said, "is in comparison a much more respectable bird, and withal a true original native of America. He is besides, though a little vain and silly, a bird of courage, and would not hesitate to attack a grenadier of the British Guards who should presume to invade his farm with a red coat on." And so once again, thinking about those original settlers, the Pilgrims, whom, by the way, are our people. The United Church of Christ is formed from the Congregationalists along with the Evangelical and Reformed Church. The first Americans were the Congregationalists. Those are our people. We're at once the oldest and the youngest denomination in the country. I think that's very interesting. Those people celebrated mere survival after that first difficult winter. And I think this is a lesson to us as well, this pandemic Thanksgiving. We might be thought of to be vain ourselves or entitled if we can't have a good day because we have to change our habits a little bit. Let's be grateful today for mere survival, that God has preserved us to this day, and we have this moment only. It's all that we ever have, and let's find a way to celebrate it, to discover God in it with us, to discover the true gift of life and living as coming from God. In 2 Corinthians, in the 4th chapter, beginning at verse 7, the Apostle Paul puts it well, and I'd like to share that with you. He says, "We have this treasure, this gift of life, in jars of clay." That is to say, life is fragile. This is to show us that all surpassing power is from God and not from us. We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. We are persecuted, but not abandoned. We are struck down, but not destroyed. We are always carrying in us, in the body, the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be revealed in our body. For we who are alive are always being given over to death for Jesus' sake, so that his life may also be revealed in our mortal body. So then, death is not at work in us, but life is at work in you. I'm grateful today that we are simply surviving. This is a blessing which is full of hope and potential. I'd like for us to go back to Soulard Market together again for this Thanksgiving message. Before it concludes, there's another special story that I want to share with you there. There are a pair of sisters, an 8-year-old girl named Maya Turner and her 10-year-old sister named Nadia Turner, who have a cookie store there. They are bakers, and they call their store Chocolate Girl Cookies. They founded it based upon the encouragement of their parents, of course, to help pay for their college, to become entrepreneurs. Of course, their parents wanted them to learn life lessons from this endeavor. The girls were not at the market the day that I went there recently because of the pandemic, and the audio on this video was not very good because the background noise was so loud. But I did meet their father there, and he says the girls are raising money for their college. They want to go to Notre Dame, by the way, just like their mother did. One of them is good at math. Nadia wants to be an engineer, and Maya is good at judo. She wants to be an Olympian. Each week, the girls keep up with their homework, and they also bake 400 cookies, which have been selling out so quickly at their market store that when I got there, you can see maybe on the table as I show you this video, there were only like a dozen packs of 3 left, which were being sold for $5 a piece. I bought oatmeal raisin and oatmeal with caramel, which was luscious. I just wanted to share the story of Chocolate Girl Cookies with you because these unique and ambitious young ladies are not just in this for themselves. This is why it's part of a decent Thanksgiving message, I think. Their dad told me that the whole emphasis is for the purpose of teaching them that no matter who you are, you can make a difference in this world. As I see it, Maya and Nadia are a fine living example of another important lesson this particular Thanksgiving Day, and it is this: that our blessings are not just for ourselves. At the very beginning of the story of the people of God, when God called to Abraham and to Sarah, God said to them in Genesis in the 12th chapter, when he called them to come and go with him to a place as yet undescribed, but to have faith and to follow, he said to Abraham, I will bless you. I will make your descendants greater than all the stars in heaven, more than the sand that you can't count. I will bless you. But it's so that you can become a blessing. The nations will come to bless themselves by you. This is such an important observation for our times, which I feel like it's very important for us. We have been revealed to be fairly selfish people during this pandemic time. Those 10 diseased persons who were healed in our gospel lesson for today, of them only one returned to give thanks to God. Today let us pledge to God and to one another to be more like the one who had the insight, to be grateful to God for all of the many gifts which he had, for his healing and for his acceptance in the eyes of Christ, for his being put back into the life of the community because he was no longer an outcast, because Jesus had cleansed him. Give thanks today then to God for all of these things. And that would be all, but there's one more thing. I want for us to go back to the market one more time. Another reason that I sought those turkeys out is because it has become a Thanksgiving tradition for a turkey to be pardoned. I want for us to be grateful for pardon today, that God is a God of mercy. After all, Psalm 103 says in the 12th verse, as far as the east is from the west, so far does God remove our iniquity from us. Luke says in the 23rd chapter, the 34th verse, 23rd chapter, the 34th verse, Jesus on the cross speaks forgiveness on those who crucify him. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. And Matthew in the 18th chapter, verse 21, Peter says to Jesus, just how often do we have to forgive? As many as 7 times, and Jesus says as many as 70 times, 7 times. We must be graceful people because we have experienced God's grace. God's property is always to have mercy. Give thanks today then that you have been pardoned. God is one with us. Our trials will not go unnoticed or unredeemed. We are alive today. we have this moment in time, and we should treasure it as a gift from God. Thanks be to God then. Thanks to you for staying connected with the St. Martin's Church family. And now then, let's go pardon that turkey. That's great. Well, I had thought that I'm not the president or anything, that I might like to pardon one of the turkeys today. But if you sell them, the pardon won't work, so it's just for right now. Right now, I'm going to...
And here's the wingspan.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that. That is awesome.
Beautiful.
Let me turn around on selfie. So we're here today at Soulard with Brian, and what did we name this? This one is either Joe or Donald. We don't know which.
This one is Donald.
But, we're going to give Donald a temporary pardon just until someone buys him. And
That's right.
He can rest assured while he's on camera that he's been pardoned for Thanksgiving. And that's all there is to it.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Okay. He's beautiful.
Thank you.
Now I want to treat you to this beautiful choral piece that includes brass and bells and the chancel choir and all the choruses. And I'm going to show you some more scenes from the market while you enjoy this. Blessings.